How can you practice when you're too embarrassed to sing at home? In this video, I'm going to give you some tips and some strategies to practice at home when you feel too nervous or too embarrassed about people hearing you. Before we dive in, remember to hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Now, there are a number of reasons why people are too embarrassed or too nervous to sing at home. Maybe you're just starting out as a singer, or you're only just starting to take singing seriously, or someone has said something to you, or maybe you're living in a new place where you're not used to practicing and you're not used to the people around you because you haven't gotten to know them very well yet. Now, if it's just down to nerves and embarrassment, that is absolutely normal. Well, all of it is normal. But nerves and embarrassment are normal until you grow in confidence. And the only way you're going to grow in confidence is by singing more and by practicing. So in order to take the next step in anything we do in life, in order to move forward, we always have to be uncomfortable first, move through the discomfort. Some people say get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I actually think that's a load of nonsense. If you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. If you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, then you're comfortable, aren't you? So it doesn't make sense. So it's okay to feel uncomfortable. Move through the discomfort because that's where growth takes place, and then you will become confident. Then you're going to try something new and you'll feel uncomfortable and unconfident in that. You'll move through the discomfort, you'll gain confidence, you'll improve, you'll make progress, you'll gain confidence, and then you'll be uncomfortable about something else and uncomfortable and unconfident about something else that you're doing. So this is something that we go through in all areas of life. When you start a new school, when you start a new job, you feel nervous. Sometimes you feel embarrassed because you're getting things wrong. When you start a new course, you're not sure about where you are in terms of your knowledge. There might be some people even in a beginner's course who have more knowledge and experience than you, and you might feel a bit nervous about that, and you might feel embarrassed about giving wrong answers sometimes. The education system has a lot to answer for. There's nothing wrong with wrong answers as long as you're always learning. But I digress. Having worked in education, I know this to be very, very true. When I first started taking my singing very seriously, which was about 10 months into my singing journey. So I started singing in 1999. My singing lessons were a gift from my first husband and I took to it straight away. I really loved it, but it was about 10 months in that I realized that I wanted to take singing seriously and become a professional singer. Now, definitely from the first week that I started my singing lessons, because I was practicing every single day, one of the neighbours on one side of me, on one side the neighbours were really, really, really lovely, and on the other side they weren't quite so friendly. The husband was pretty friendly, and the wife for some reason didn't like me at all. I have no idea why. She never said, we never had a falling out. She just didn't take to me. And when I started singing, from certainly the first week, she started complaining. She knocked on the door and she would complain to my husband while I was practicing, and I could hear her complaining, and she would complain about me singing. Now, it was embarrassing. It for a second made me want to stop, but because of the type of person I am, I'm just very, very stubborn. I thought to myself, well, I could let her win and I could stop practicing and I could let that ruin my progress and my goal and my vision of becoming a singer. Or I could ignore her because she's just miserable and carry on practicing, improve my singing, grow from the lesson of moving forward even though it was difficult, and become a professional singer. And so that's what I did. Now, it's not going to be that easy for everyone. Not everyone's as stubborn as I am. The other thing is that I have been performing since the age of 8. I was a dancer as a child, and I've been on stages and performing in front of people for a really, really long time. So by the time that came around, I had been on stages for 16 years, so I had a different approach to someone who may be naturally quite shy. Lots of musicians and performers are. Someone who may just have a more timid personality than I have. So I completely understand it's not always as easy for other people as it was for me. However, if you know in your deepest heart of hearts that singing is something that you definitely want to do, and you know that there is nothing else for you, even though you might have jobs on the sideline and you might do other things for plan B just in case. Why do I do that? For plan B, just in case. You know that singing is what you want to do, or maybe you just love singing. Why should the thought about someone else not enjoying it stop you from doing what you love? If we're being logical and reasonable, logic and reason I don't always agree with, but in this case, if we're being logical and reasonable, it shouldn't. Now, of course, I don't think that people should be singing 9, 10 o'clock at night and disturbing the neighbours. But when you are learning to sing, when you're singing, sometimes it's going to be loud. There are also some places and some buildings that aren't built very well. That's not your fault. But there are things that you can do to make it a little bit less uncomfortable for you and for the people around you if they're really, really miserable and they really don't like you singing. Miserable people. Anyway, let's keep this positive. Okay, for those of you who have been on my channel before, you know that I don't mind making a joke or two and speaking my mind. So I did have this issue, and after probably about 7-8 months of taking singing lessons and practicing pretty much it was every day. I bumped into, my husband and I bumped into the next door neighbours who weren't so friendly in the street. And again, the lady didn't speak to me, and her husband said to me, you know, Carrie, your singing's really coming along. And she heard this conversation between the two of us, and she never complained again. Now, I was happy that she'd stopped complaining. I didn't see that as a win or as a brag. I just saw it as, do you know what? I'm really glad that I decided to not let her put me off and decided to go for what I really love and go for my vision and go for my goal. And it saw me through. And not only did I then have the respect of the neighbour for, you know, continuing with something that I wasn't originally that good at, but I also was happy with myself for not letting someone else stop me. Now, if your issue isn't that you've got someone complaining or someone making judgments about you or making comments, and it's just that you're embarrassed and you're nervous, then I would advise you, and this is what I've said to a lot of my singers who have this issue, is what is it that you really want? Would you like to look back at the end of your life and say, do you know, I could have been a singer, but I was too embarrassed to practice? Or would you like to look back on your life and say, do you know, I had a really, really enjoyable life. Sometimes it was difficult, but I did exactly what I wanted to, and I didn't let embarrassment or nerves stop me. Which would you prefer? You will feel nervous, you will feel embarrassed. When I go into a new space and I start warming up or I start practicing, I still feel nervous and embarrassed. I still wonder if someone's going to come and knock on the door and ask me to pipe down. I'm not going to. But I wonder if someone is going to. And it's normal. I've been singing for 26 years now. The other thing to remember is that when something is worthwhile, there will always be resistance, either from yourself or from outside forces or other people. Speak to the elephant in the room. You can say, do you know what? I'm really sorry that this is disturbing you. I am starting out in singing, or I have just moved in. This is what I do. I'm happy to keep to, you know, I'll keep to social hours. I'll make sure I stop singing before 7 p.m. or whatever it is, and I won't sing until after 10 a.m. you know. Or you could find out what their working hours, or if they work from home, you know, see if you can practice in a different place in your home that won't disturb them if they're working from home. However, make sure that you address the issue. Speak to the elephant in the room. If you're moving into a house share, this is what I did when I moved into a house share for a short period of time. I told the landlady and I told the people in the house that I'm a singer, I'm a voice coach. For a few hours a day, I will be making noise. And they were absolutely fine with it. Then one of them had a baby and they kept asking me to be quiet. And I was like, you know, I've been here for a while now and you've only just had your baby. We need to figure out how we can make this work. So they're having the conversation is the way forward. If you are moving into a new place or you're in a place and someone else moves in, or you've been living in your place for a while and you get new neighbours, when you bump into the street, speak to the elephant in the room. Say, oh, by the way, I'm a singer. You might have heard me practice. And they'll either say, yes, I have, and say something nice, or they'll say, no, I haven't, or they'll say, yes, I have, and they may make a rude comment, or they may make a face. You will know by their response whether they have and whether it disturbs them. If there's an indication that it disturbs them, apologise. You know, you probably usually practice at the same time, or, you know, if you have a different rota every day, you might practice at different times every day, but you'll have some kind of idea of when is the time that you normally practice, and you can come to some agreement. Most people are going to be reasonable. Even my neighbour from years ago, who wasn't very reasonable, even she stopped moaning after a few months. If you have a good relationship with your neighbours, but you can see that it's bugging them a little bit, there's some indication that they're getting a little bit irritated by it, buy them a small gift to apologise and just say, do you know, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm improving. You can probably hear that I'm improving. They may or may not agree, doesn't really matter. And just say, you know, eventually you probably won't hear it, you'll stop hearing it. When things are happening quite a lot, people stop hearing it, they stop taking notice. They might just turn their TV or their Spotify up or their YouTube. I hope that this helps you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Stay hydrated. Ciao!